still in the air.
Wow.
Yeah,
You had a hot summer.
Yeah, it got down below 100. So I was outside. It was like 90 something out there. And, 90 actually feels a little chilly to me now. So
wow.
I'm like, ooh, 90.
Well, good for you.
Well, I'm happy about it because, I don't really mind the summer so much, but I can't ride my motorcycles. And I love those things, but it is just,
it's coming.
You'll fry out there if you try to ride.
It'd be like having a heater.
Be fun.
A very strong heater on you.
It would be like having like a 90-mile-per-hour blow dryer in your face.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, too, I was wondering, you and I were talking about this on the phone about a week ago, and I was wondering, like, man, just bare minimum safety purposes, you need to wear a certain amount of clothing.
Yeah, right.
Like, would you actually ride around in t-shirts and shorts?
I never do. I've been so tempted to do that.
Yeah.
People do that out here. I've seen people riding with like flip-flops on. Like, what are you doing? Like, that's so dangerous. I mean, just imagine if you don't have the proper shoes on. You ever hurt your toe before? I mean, that's
dude.
Just walking or running around. Imagine you're going 80 miles per hour and you hurt your toe on something. I mean,
I ride my bike all the time, dressed just as we described. Flip-flops, t-shirts, shorts, but I'm not going 80 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah. So, anyways, in that heat, and you're probably been wearing a jacket, I would assume.
Oh yeah, I wear a jacket. In the hot days, it's a mesh jacket. So it's great when you're riding, not so great when you're at a stoplight. But yeah, you definitely you gotta roll with the temperatures out here. A lot of people here, there's not even a helmet law out here, so people can ride around without a helmet on. I'm pretty protective of my investment, so I wear a full face helmet.
It's just too hot though for all of that, for sure.
It is in the summertime. Forget about it. I can't even ride my bicycle. It's too hot out there.
Totally get it. And on the rare times that you may have a cloudy day, that may work.
Yeah, well, it does. But here's the thing, Barry. When it gets cloudy here in the summer, it almost gets hotter. It's like, are you kidding me? That's what I thought. I thought, oh, look, it's cloudy outside. It's going to be nice because we always have it nice and air conditioned in here. But you go out there and you're like, what? This is terrible. You run back inside.
All right, let's move along. We do have a lot. I want to just mention briefly. I just heard the other day that Fauci himself is on his third bout of COVID, even after having a total of 6 jabs.
You're kidding me.
Try to wrap your head around that one.
How in the world? I mean, seriously.
They were talking about it on the Part of the Problem podcast, and they made a point like, why is Fauci telling anyone that he's got COVID again? Why would he tell anyone?
I'd keep that under wraps, personally.
Yeah, it's probably
a little embarrassing.
Oh, God, to say the least. But I brought it up because I pulled up AARP's website. I like to check it out before a podcast. Sometimes they have some very interesting, important information we should know. And this has an article about what to know about the updated COVID vaccines. First of all, I didn't know there were updated COVID vaccines. Secondly, what I know about them is I'm not getting them.
Good for you, man.
Yeah. I just regret that I have the existing ones in me. It does have an article down here about how artificial intelligence can be used to mislead voters. I haven't read either of those. I just wanted to bring that up because I got to say, with everything, I don't want to go into politics right now. I just want to say, because of that article, with everything, wild ass thing I've seen go on so far in this political season, I would not doubt it if they're trying countless ways of doing voter fraud. So, you might want to check out that article. Now, you and we have 2 upfront things that we wanted to talk about. Myself, I wanted to talk about the state of education, and there's an important thing that I want to go over. I have a website to show about Jordon Peterson's new university that he has launched online. It's spectacular. But you also wanted to
Wow.
talk about
There's a
some
couple of things that I have going on here. One is this, Barry, you and I are the same age. We graduated the same year, which means that it has been 40 years since we
Yes.
graduated from high school.
Yes.
And I can't even believe that.
I
40
know.
years. I mean, I'm not even 40 years old, so how could this be? I don't even understand this.
Right.
But the 40-year anniversary
Reunion.
reunion is coming up here, and now mine's coming up in September, and I'm pretty sure I'm not going to go because it's in Cleveland, and it's kind of a long way from
Yeah.
Phoenix to make that happen. But it is kind of, the more I think about it, the more it's kind of, well, it's kind of a shame. I kind of think it might be a lot of fun, and I really had a great time in high school, and I haven't really kept up with very many people. I see them on Facebook all the time. How about you, Barry?
No, have not kept up with a lot of people. We had a reunion just a few weeks ago, and I didn't put it in my calendar or anything. And my old friend Jay was texting me the day of, and then ironically, I was out in Kirtland at a dog park with this big dog park with a lake in it by Lake Farm Park, and all these dogs are playing. Charlie's playing, and I was like, well, this is what I'm doing right now. And I sent him a video, goes, wow, that looks like fun. So anyways, I came back home and I said to Lisa, well, this gig's going on. It's by Riverside High School where I went to school, which is by my mom's house.
Yeah.
So not a big excuse to take Charlie straight to my mom's house and go to this thing. But it was like, too much rushing around and all that. And so I just looked at the pictures online and everything, and there was probably about 40 people out of, I don't know, 180 or whatever. I don't feel like I really miss much.
Yeah. Okay. You don't have any feelings of regret that you didn't go. That's good. That's actually really good.
And I was struggling day of, as Jay's giving me all of those texts and stuff. I was struggling.
Yeah. Have you been to a reunion before?
Like, I think the last one was our 20th. 20 years ago, and it seems like a few years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know what? I told him, I had this conversation with a couple people of late because they're like, why didn't you go blah, blah, blah. I remember at the 20th, I was getting this whole, this conversation started, and, everyone says, oh, believe me, the 40th is way different from the 20th. Understood. But it's getting this whole, wow, you look so great. You look just like you did in high school. And that kind of went on for a while. And it's, makes you smile at first. And then it starts coming as this left-handed compliment thing. But, this guy over here, I think he might look better than you. It's like, yeah, he does. Okay, I got to go. And I didn't want to hear anything like that. And that was my thought process. I don't want to hear that crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's coming across, but I'm just being honest.
No, I think a lot of people feel the same way, and a lot of people have fears of stirring up old memories and things like that. Here's one that I have is you walk in the door and you don't recognize or remember anybody.
Right. I'm sure that would have happened to me. Yes.
You're just like,
I hate that
an
too.
Idiot the whole time. I went to my 10-year class reunion and people were like, oh my God, I won like the most changed individual.
Oh, really?
When I went to my 10 years,
did you have your head? You did have your head shaved by then,
and I gained like 50 pounds from the time I had seen them the last time. I was really skinny in high school.
Yeah, you were skinny in college.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm about the same weight as I was in college when you and I. met.
80 pounds later.
Yeah. Now I am. But when I was in high school, I was about 25 pounds lighter than I am right now.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I know. So I packed on some pounds and came in and they were like, oh, you're so changed. And I was like, oh, thank you. So now it's been 30 years since I've been to the last one, but I was thinking about this and here's what really got me thinking about this was that I got I got something from Facebook from the 40-year class reunion, and it was this collage of films from our senior year, and I perused it, and
that's right.
I came up with a clip of me running the 2-mile relay with my partners out there. And you know what, Barry? I had never ever seen myself run before. Back in '84, it wasn't like everybody had
very
a
few
video
camera.
camera. Right,
very,
exactly.
very
Nobody, people didn't have
somebody would
cameras
have had
on them.
to come in with this big luggage on there.
Yeah, exactly. Hold on, let me get the truck.
And do you have that clip to share?
Let me try to pull that up.
Yeah, because it was very cool. And when you sent it to me via text, and I'm watching it and everything, it looks like it's like from the 1940s.
Oh my God, that was the thing that really got me. It's like, are you kidding me? This is how I can't believe how old this looks. And,
well, I'll tell you what,
not that old.
I know. I'll tell you what. So I remember like when my buddies and I went to Spain in 2002, digital cameras were very, very new at that point. Most of our photos are from instant cameras where you took and you dropped off that camera at the photo mat, and then you got back your prints, right?
That was it.
And so the photos were terrible. And okay, that was 2002. In 2006, 4 years later, we went to Greece. We all had digital cameras,
that's right.
And our photos are perfect. Like it's never been the same since. Now these cameras still get better and better, but not that much. I mean, so by like 2006, all of a sudden we had like it was the future at that point. It was now.
It is really amazing. I remember those films that you sent too, and they were amazing. Those pictures, I was so jealous. I wanted to be. Wanted to be.
Well, it kind of took you there. That was kind of the point. It really,
it really did. Let me see if I can play this film here.
Okay, share the sound if it's.
I got the sound on this as well. Here, this is probably going to be super grainy. Here we go.
Right.
Oh, wait, hold on. Let me figure out how to play it. There we go. Okay, so this is the 2-mile relay.
Look at that. This looks like it's 1920.
It was 1924. It really felt. Okay, so this was the relay, and that's us. And that's Matt winning the relay. We won that, and we actually won the Suburban League Championship.
Oh my God, look at
that one race right there.
It looks like we're looking into another dimension.
Oh my gosh, it's like
squint your eyes.
Oh yeah, back in '33, the Olympics.
Right.
It is so crazy old looking, but really, it feels like it was yesterday.
Wow, that's awesome.
The weird part about the whole thing.
All right.
Wait, now we were talking about reunions. I had there was something I looked at here that was it was 6 reasons to attend your 40th class reunion, and I thought this was interesting. I'll just go through a couple of these. You get to reconnect with old friends. That's pretty obvious, right? Old friends, and that's really the whole reason that you're going there. You haven't seen people for 30 or 40 years. For me, it'll be 40 years, or at least 30 years for quite a few people. And I really enjoyed high school. I think that'll be great. But here's the thing. Number 2 is that the old cliques are gone. Something this person, her name is Michelle, went to her 40-year class reunion and very concerned that the old mean girls clique would still be in effect, but it wasn't like that at all. She found that the popular people were sitting with the nerdy people, and these things had just dissipated. You can cast aside your political differences. Another big preventer of going to reunions these days, Barry, is that people are afraid because they might get caught up in these political conversations out there. And we've seen this at family things before.
But and the problem with that is if you identify with so tightly with your team, it's your identity, then you're going to get triggered. No matter what, you're going to get triggered. Like you and I could have that conversation there all day long and be able to navigate it.
Boy, you said a mouthful too, because that's really where we get into trouble, is where we make politics our identity. And the fact is, and this is what I've learned, and hopefully by the 40th class reunion, everybody else has learned this, is that, there was a time where I thought, oh yeah, the Republicans. And then I found out that they were lying to me.
Right. Man, are they?
And then I was like, oh God, I feel like a fool. So I learned to not use them or things like that as my identity. But it says here, she had this experience where she was concerned about that. Nobody talked about politics. Everybody was wanting to talk about old times, stories of things that happened before, and it was just really fun. Another one is that people are scared, hey, I've aged. I don't look like I used, just like you're talking about back, 30 years ago. We all, oh, you look like you did in high school. Well, we don't anymore.
Yeah, right.
But the good news is that nobody looks like they did in high school anymore.
Sure.
So everybody's in the same boat. And she found that everybody was very comfortable. Pretty much when we get to be this age, most of us are pretty comfortable in our own skin, no matter what we look like. We're just happy to be here. That's kind of how everybody was at this. And then a couple last ones. You can quietly honor those who have died. Talked about how she didn't know some of these people had passed away, and that while she couldn't go to the funeral, they had a table set up, and they could pay their honors and respects.
Dude, that's a good point right there.
It's a very good point. Also finding out about people that had passed away that you just didn't know about. It's quite a thing. One last one is it'll make you challenge your assumptions. And I thought this one was interesting because it was this woman talks about meeting a guy that she knew in high school, and he sharing a story of this girl that he was so infatuated with but was scared to talk to because she was so beautiful. And she was thinking, what are you talking about? Mary? She's plain Jane. And it's sort of like you get these perspectives from the mile high view that you never would have back when you were in high school. So those were the 6 reasons why to attend, but there are reasons why not to attend as well. This article I read was, if you're having these negative reactions whenever you think about it, like racing heart and sweaty palms, you probably should stay home on that one. Yeah. Or you're struggling from, past trauma, you were bullied, you can't let it go. Or maybe you just moved on in your life, and it's not important to you to reconnect back.
You were talking about the reunion. It was about trauma. You were talking about trauma.
Yeah, if you experienced trauma. I think for some people it's just not the thing that you need to do. For other people it is. I think it's one of those things where there's a potential for people to get out there and say the wrong thing, or maybe even drink too much and have an embarrassing moment. So, hey, sometimes these things are just not worth going to in the first place.
I think about a few people that I've wondered about since high school, and one person in particular moved on to be a prominent doctor. I think he's been on the East Coast pretty much ever since. He's never come to a reunion and stuff. And I can think of a couple other people in similar situations. And there's no judgment here other than a positive one, is I think the best years of their life were as soon as they got out of high school. They went into college and graduate school. Their lives really started then. And so it's like, who cares about high school?
It's funny because now you're kind of reminded me of these child actors that become so famous when they're children, and then that's it. They don't do anything after. They've reached the pinnacle of their life.
Well, they're always screwed up after that.
Yeah, that's not a good thing. So
it should not be raised going through your formative years under those pretenses. So we got 40 minutes, correct?
Yes.
Okay, we got to move along. And if you had something else, please interrupt. But you had leadership stuff. I had the
jump
education.
In.
Okay. So I wanted to talk about the state of education. There's so much, of course, that we could talk about. We've recently, in the last couple of years, come to realize that people have been pushing critical race theory onto our kids. It's permeated all through every age group and up to college. We just saw a few months ago Claudine Gay, is that her name? Claudine Gay?
Yes, that was it. Yeah.
The president of Harvard, who's also accused of something like 56 bouts of plagiarism, which is, how did she ever get elected to Harvard of all places? Well, this brings me to Jordon Peterson, who obviously I listen to all the time. I bring up a lot. He was on Rogan about a month or two ago, maybe 2 months ago, and he was talking about the Peterson Academy. Now, he had been talking about this on his podcast from time to time, that he was developing this. And it is because of, the timing of everything is perfect. He comes on Rogan to announce the official launching of it about a month after the Claudine Gay scandal at Harvard. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine a better time to launch this thing? No
kidding.
Proof is in the pudding right here. Mm-hmm. And the tuition that people get saddled with for a very terrible indoctrination of an education. Employers everywhere are feeling very negative about their college graduates that they're bringing on, and then seeing the entitlement that they come in, the activism that they bring to the table, and all of that. So I just wanted to show you his website very briefly, because first of all, it's a beautiful website, but I wanted to have the conversation with you about what you see the future of education being, because here I'm saying that it's going to be online, that irrefutably. Yeah. And with that, I'm going through this to show Merle, to show the people that are actually watching, to show you how absolutely professional, brilliant, and beautiful this website is. Very, very professional. It literally makes me want to sign up for any number of these courses that you see here. Very well designed.
It is well designed, yeah. The colors and everything. It's almost like, hey, let's watch some movies.
Yeah, exactly. There's every one of these has its, and there's 28, I think. Everyone has its own identity, and yet it all looks like it's from the same website. Know what I mean?
Right.
And so, as Peterson says, the most notable speakers and educators that you can find in the country are telling their side of their story of their classes on here. And a 4-year degree will cost approximately 1/20th of the average 4-year college. He says about $2,000. Additionally, you can do a 1-year accreditation, a 2-year, a 3-year, and of course a 4-year full college accreditation. And so there are questions that arise with this, like, what do you mean by accreditation? Well, he says he's trying, as of now, to get the full scale typical college accreditation, but good luck with that, because these boards are owned and operated by the woke, indoctrinated people, and they make sure that in all of these colleges, and Peterson, just a few years back was a professor at the University of Toronto, and saw this taking hold, and he is now under fire by the psychological board, and they are demanding that he goes through a re-education period for as long as it is deemed necessary until he says 2 + 2 = 5.
So forever.
And he is, of course, appealing that. And if they finally do take his license, he hasn't been practicing forever anyway. He is, so he says, you careful what you wish for, buddy, because now I am putting you all to task. Yeah. And he is with this online university.
I see that.
He is changing everything. And so then there's also, I'm going to play this right here in a second, but I want to also tell you that what was it? Oh, so there's the social aspect. That is something that will immediately come up. As he says, I would encourage everyone to watch that Rogan episode from about 2 months ago with Peterson on there. He talks about this, everything I'm referring to, at about the midway point, almost exactly midway through their podcast. So you could skip right up there. Because it's really important, the things that he said in the way, because he has a full understanding of everything that is going on. He talks about every psychologist worth their salt knows all of the harm that is going on in the educational system with this wokeness DEI stuff. And so he is saying that when it comes to the accreditation, if he has to, and they probably will, they will develop their own. And employers will prefer this new accreditation very quickly because it's going to be solid and guaranteed not to have indoctrinated.
Yeah, they're going to have people that graduate that actually can navigate through the waters of life.
Are educated by the best minds that you can get.
Right. To his point, they're not educating at all. They're coming out just with indoctrination. And so, this will work. I already know.
At the bare minimum, he's very humble about this. At the bare minimum, it will put these people under a microscope, put them to task to have the compare and contrast. Okay, now your feet are held to the fire. Another thing he talks about, well, what about the socialization part? He says, literally, Ivy League schools are really sought after more so to find your mate than it is for your career path, because you go off to school, you for the first time develop your own identity, you're figuring yourself out, and you're finding somebody of a like persuasion, and usually you find your mate for life there, and it shapes in your entire rest of your life. So what do you do in this situation?
So true.
Online, with this online thing, you're missing that. Well, he says, okay, wait a minute. He goes, a big part of socializing today is social media. The problem with today's social media is that it's free. There's no barrier to entry, so you get a lot of bad players and a lot of bad conduct here. He says, with our accreditation, we have our own social media built into it. We are socializing online, and it is closed off to exactly the people that you want to be, and you have a very good chance of meeting that's the same kind of scenario. So I'm trying to answer, I'm trying to go fast, man, and hit the big points because we're under a time crunch. But I know that all of those questions come up. And so I wanted to put them out. Are you ready?
I definitely have questions like that. I mean, you know, that the whole socialization thing, I think he answered it well. But there is something to the human contact part where you're physically in front of people. And I think about our college experience, Barry. I mean, I don't know if we would have just met each other online. I know it wouldn't have been the same thing. I don't think we would have made that bond. I mean, it's more than just marriage. I mean,
I mean, it's different. It's always different.
We would have missed that.
Every generation's always got different stuff. We never had
any classes together. We just lived
very
together.
True. And there's also, as he says,
friends. I don't have any friends from back then that I went to class with. You know what I'm saying? It's so crazy, man.
And it's not just the friends and the girlfriends. It's also the undergrads and the teachers that you build the relationship with. He says all of that is still possible with this. And I'm sure that there is then invites for social interaction along the way. But I don't know. I just say that he goes into a lot of detail in there for about an hour on that Rogan podcast. I highly recommend that you guys seek that out because it's super interesting. You'll learn a lot. Let's play this and see where this takes us. Now,
why did I decide to build an online university?
Speaks for itself.
Well,
1 minute.
There is a crisis now in higher education.
The president of Harvard University resigned today, weeks
after calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's code of conduct.
We have a problem of affordability and cost, spiraling student loans. We have a groupthink emerging, and that warps the entire academic enterprise.
I experimented with putting my lectures online and found that I could teach far more people at very low cost than I could at the university. And I thought, well, why not scale that? What I'm hoping to do is to find the best lecturers in the world and to bring them to as wide as possible an audience.
He came to me and he basically said, I want you to do the best course that you've always wanted to do.
We want to bring you the highest quality education possible at the lowest possible price.
It's extremely high-level content that anybody can use to educate themselves, and it's available to everybody.
Well, that would be good. I think it's funny, because I got canceled at the university, so I could try to return the favor.
I love that.
How about that? I got goosebumps at the end there. You know, because that's the story, right? The persecution that he endured caused it was the impetus.
Careful what you wish
for this to happen,
buddies.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, and this is a life lesson right here, Barry. Is that you know, some of the very best things that have come out of the human existence has happened when we are pressed. It's like lemons, right? You don't get lemonade until you squeeze those lemons, so you put them under stress.
Yep, that's right.
And this is what's come out of this. Even like I couldn't help but think about the Christian faith and how Christianity only spread because of persecution. And it went all around the world because of persecution. You can't kill it. When you try to kill it, it becomes stronger. This is what's happened with him as well and his platform. I never would have known his name had he not been persecuted at that Toronto college.
Right, for sure. I mean, that's what I think he outlined that very good. So I think this is absolutely revolutionary, and I think it's a long time coming. I mean, it's a shame that a whole generation of kids had to get saddled with an extraordinary amount of debt for a very poor education, and that our country has had to come to this point where we're at a crossroads, and, you know, we got this election coming up and everyone seems horribly uneducated.
All right, you were saying that because of the election year, or it is an election year, and we've got these uneducated voters, right? Yeah, this is a problem. I was looking at this article this week, this organization before, MRC Newsbusters, but they are talking about a poll that was done, and it's saying that most of these Democrats that were at the DNC don't actually know what the policies are that
I don't know what the policies
Kamala Harris stands for,
except for taxing unrealized gains.
You know, yeah. So we do know some of the policies. Let me just go through some of this. Is kind of interesting. Harrison would consider death row inmates to vote. 14% of the Democrats polled were aware of that. Only 14, 86 unaware. Harris supports the elimination of private health insurance. Only 19% were aware of that. Harris promoted a fund to bail out violent protesters during the 2020 riots. Only 22% of Democrats polled knew about that. Harris supports abolishing ICE. Only 23%. Harris was named the most liberal U.S. senator in 2019. Only 25%. The point is that this whole thing is all about looks and aesthetics, and nothing to do with any kind of policy whatsoever. And so this is the problem during this election season, is that we don't, I mean, it seems like, and I don't know if you could say that about the Republican Party, but it seems like the Democrat Party doesn't have any idea what this candidate stands for whatsoever.
No, she doesn't.
The funny thing is, she doesn't actually talk about it.
She hasn't been told what she stands for yet.
Well, the thing is that she did bring up last week a couple of different things when she started talking about her economic agenda. And she brought up two things, Barry. One of them was that she was going to put price controls on supermarkets.
Oh, yeah.
And the other one was that new home buyers would somehow get $25,000 to go ahead and put a down payment on their house. You know, you hear these things, and I think from somebody that, you know, maybe a low information voter might think that sounds great, because that is just, you know, money in your pocket. Are you kidding me? I'm going to get $25,000 to buy a house. That sounds great. Now my house is going to be $25,000 less expensive. Surprise. That's exactly not what's going to happen.
Well, worse,
what's going to happen is Go ahead.
I'm sorry. The worst, I think, is what's going. She will not touch the large businesses. I mean, it's an oligarchy. They run the country, but she'll screw the small supermarkets, and say that they price control there, so that they cap their profit. But the problem with our food industry is that they're controlled by 4 of the largest food distributors that act together as a monopoly. Now, if she wants to really do something, go after that. And prove that they're acting as a monopoly and divide that up and prosecute. She's a prosecutor.
Well, here's what we're hearing is, yeah, right. But why do we want our president to be a prosecutor? That's not really
bad.
I don't think that's it's a terrible prosecutor. But here's the thing is that, price controls don't work. We know that they don't work. We've tried it before in the 70s. We tried price controls. What happened was that we had shortages. We had supply chain issues. We had lines. We had bare shelving. We tried it with gasoline. We had long lines at the pump. And here's the problem is that when you try to put price controls on, let's say for the supermarket, the margin of profit is average 1.6% at the supermarket. So how are you gonna price control that? Right? That doesn't sound like gouging to me. Okay, so the logical next step is you've got to price control those suppliers, like you said, Barry. That does make sense. But here's the problem with that, though, is that they have items that they can't control. Energy being one, supplies being another, labor being another one. These are things that are going to be, labor they can control pricing on, but energy and certain things, those are out of their control. We know energy prices are going up and up and up. Okay, so that cuts into that 1.6 margin right there. So what that means is that they've got to start to cut down on production because they can't afford it. Distributors will go out of business. The smaller ones will go out first. You're going to that's what creates these supply chain shortages. We've seen it in Venezuela. We've seen it in Russia. We've seen it in Cuba. We've seen it here. It doesn't work. You give $25,000 to people to buy a new house, and guess what? Houses automatically go up $25,000. By the way, where is that money coming from? Do you think it's coming from tax dollars? No, it's not going to come from tax dollars, because then you're going to have to raise taxes on the middle class, which they're saying they're not going to raise taxes on. So where does it come from? They've got to print it. Printing means inflation, which defeats what they're trying to do at the grocery store.
That's tax dollars. It's just
it's an invisible tax.
Yeah. But it sure seems visible to me. I just my groceries keep going up, man.
They keep going up, but yet when we hear, let's just go on to the DNC, we heard them over and over this week tell us that inflation was going down. But the funny thing, at my store, they're not going down.
Right. They're lying.
I thought it was just my store.
818,000 jobs that all of a sudden they cooked the numbers for the DNC. Then they uncover, they do an audit, and there are 818,000 less jobs than what was reported. And you know what? I have actually a quick video on that. What's
campaign trail? Let's take a listen to that one together.
The administration padded the numbers with an extra, listen to this one, 818,000 jobs that don't exist. So they said they existed, and they never did exist. They built them up so that...
Do you potentially think that this new numbers could be a liability for this campaign?
No. When I hear that, first of all, I don't believe it, because I've never heard Donald Trump say anything truthful.
It is, though, from the Bureau of Labor.
I don't...
All right there. I have to stop. This is the Secretary of Commerce who doesn't believe this, even though this just came from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and she doesn't believe it because of TDS. I just had to get to that. Can you believe that?
Yeah, actually, yes. I can.
Yeah.
Because that's all they did. This entire convention was lie about the things that Donald Trump stands for. In fact, I can't believe how many times Donald Trump's name was mentioned during the convention. You think that it was a campaign for Donald Trump. It was all about Donald Trump and how bad he is.
Dude, that's all they got. Now they got Kamala Harris for their candidate. Everything about it is just weird. I mean, it's like in another dimension type of weird.
It really is.
I think here's a thought that I had. I'm going to use Vivek Ramaswamy as an example. Use anybody that you like. Your second favorite candidate. If it wasn't Trump, would Kamala Harris have a chance? My point is,
I don't think so.
Exactly, because they're only running on Trump hate. And boy, they got a nice base of people for that. So that's the only way
like
it's working.
but I don't know.
I know what you mean.
Here's the thing is that they brought up several things and they pounded it over and over that are proven, that have been debunked by organizations like Snopes. Okay, Snopes is not a conservative outlet.
No, they are not.
Yeah, right. Okay, so here it is that Joe Biden himself went to the Charlottesville thing. I ran for president because Trump said there were good people on both sides. Well, that's been debunked by CNN,
his speech
by
MSNBC. Was just lie after lie after lie.
And then it was the thing where he goes to the D-Day thing and he calls them suckers and losers.
Yeah.
We got like about 100 people that were with Trump that are saying that never happened.
It's even like an old lie. We've known that's been a lie for about a year or two.
We've known about that, right? And it's just with that. But then I started thinking about some of the other lies that they told, like the Putin price hike, you know, and that had everything to do with the invasion of Ukraine, and then also remember the bombing of the Nord Stream pipeline, and they said, "Oh, Putin sabotaged that to destroy." It turns out, just last month, they arrested a Ukrainian, and they're saying that it was the Ukrainians that actually went in. Probably with the support of the United States, I would say that's a 99% chance.
Yeah, right.
I mean, what the hell? We've been giving them billions of dollars for military aid, and this was a military activity that happened here. So
we greased the wheels.
What a lie! But then we earlier talked about the whole COVID and the vaccinations, and here's Biden telling us if you take the vaccination, you're not going to get COVID. Well, how many times has Joe Biden himself had COVID? Here, Fauci's had it 100 times. The lies. Okay, so now we're watching this convention, and they're telling us all these things that they're going to do, and they're going to make this whole country so much better. Yet it's all the people that have been in charge for the last 12 years. Nothing has changed. How are we supposed to believe? Who would believe any of this stuff except for those people in the convention, which I saw a bunch of people being bussed into the convention. So it seems like, I don't know, man, this seems a lot like kabuki theater to me, Barry.
It does in every regard. I totally agree with you. And what you said about them, they've been in power for 12 of the last 16 years or 20 years. I have more on that later.
That's correct. 12 of the last 16.
But I have a very good share for you. Have you heard about this viral video about the Scott Jennings on CNN? And he just left everybody dumbfounded. I have the transcript, Dan. I'll just show this actual video. This
as good as they were.
1 minute.
Is that she's in the White House right now. Democrats have controlled the White House for 12 of the last 16 years. And for all of the talk about division and the problems in the country and people are hurting, Democrats have mostly controlled this country. Trump had it for 4. The Obamas and Biden had it for the rest of the time. And somehow, it's still all Trump's fault, and somehow she hasn't been at the center of it. So to me, that's still the glaring hole in this campaign that hasn't yet been solved at the convention.
Yeah, how about that?
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, they aired that too.
I'm surprised they didn't edit that.
I mean, it seems like what we're seeing now is that the media, the mainstream media, has been saying things like this, Barry. I mean, it's kind of amazing that, like you're saying, that they're actually saying this.
I can't believe it.
I know it's refreshing to see that they're actually reporting what's going on.
I'm sitting here thinking, what's up? What's up? There's a plan there. For sure.
See, I'm just looking at this. This is from Kamala's speech last night. They're saying good delivery of a weak speech, no specifics as to what she'll do as president. She'll talk more about Trump's agenda and got that wrong than any of her own initiatives. She spent too much time on her personal story and not on our business. I think that's an excellent comment. This is interesting too. Filled with lies. This clip about January 6th, when he failed to throw away your votes, he sent an armed mob to the Capitol and fanned the flames. Well, not one firearm entered the Capitol on January 6th, and Trump called for people to be peaceful. Well, here's one. I know the importance of safety and security, especially at the border. Okay. I don't know about that. Look at it. We had like millions of people come in, fentanyl. We've had rapists come in. Like this whole thing.
That I could say that you could, if I were Trump, I'd probably run on that primarily because that's,
I would too.
Everyone is, oh my God, pissed. But then there's the economy. Like there are so many things, so many horrible things that they did to this country in the last 4 years that he could run on. But the border and the economy, it got to be number 1 and 2. And I don't know which one is number 1 and which is number 2.
I would say the economy is, I mean, just traditionally, it's that line, it's the economy, stupid, that thing. I mean, and let's just turn on Trump for a second because he's not innocent either. I wish that he would just stick to the policies and going after policies and the lack of policies coming from the Harris administration. They plan on riding all the way into the victory seat by not talking about any policies and just trying to go off of, well, she's the first Black Indian woman that's going to be the president.
Blacks,
and this
Jamaican. They say African American all the time, and she's Jamaican. And
this is the thing, right? The whole thing is it's all theater. The whole thing is theater, and it's really crazy how this could possibly happen. Here's something from Martha McCall. No, Morgan Ortegas. We have not heard one word about foreign policy all week.
Right.
You've got the Biden-Harris. Why wouldn't they talk about it? Well, Kabul fell to the Taliban. Russia has invaded Ukraine. Hamas launched the October 7th terrorist attack. Iran's on the brink of nuclear weapon, and China's ready to escalate and wants to invade Taiwan. Well, that's a huge mess, which wasn't addressed. Not even 30 seconds. Nothing the entire time.
Right. No,
the world is blowing up, but elect me for president. I'm not going to talk about it.
Yeah. And the whole, how do you say kabuki theater? Is that how you say it?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. That aspect of this whole DNC is unbelievable. So it's all emotionally driven. And this is so humiliating. They put Biden out there first, where he stutters and stammers and embarrasses his way through that speech so they could get him out of there for the rest of the DNC. He's the sitting president until January. And they just yank him out of there and forget about him. He's in California now on his, fourth vacation of the year, something like that.
Yeah, right.
And so then they trot out the Obamas, both Michelle and Barack, and Barack is doing his typical 2008 style speech and saying a whole lot of nothing, but it sounds really good. So he gets a lot of cheers. They interview Van Jones, and he's so emotional over Barack and Michelle's speeches that he said, quote, "It was like an oasis. I didn't realize I've been in a spiritual desert until they created that oasis on that stage." The team,
a spiritual desert,
has been craving their spiritual fix. This is very important. Dave Smith talked a lot about this, hit the nail on the head about this. It's their spirituality. That's the problem.
That's it. It's a religion.
It's their religion.
And we've been saying that for a long
it's a
time.
Cult.
It's cultish. It really is.
Yeah.
And that's that. Well, there was one thing in the convention that got brought up a lot, and we've been hearing about it. It's Project 2025. Have you heard about that, Barry?
Yeah, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, and I brought up their website, and I showed you they have a 900-page book online that you could read.
Well, when you say they, that's the whole trick right here. Is who are they? Is that the Trump administration? Here's some information on that, because CNN fact checks Democrat who claimed Donald Trump wrote Project 2025 book.
I don't think he had anything to do with it. That's ridiculous.
He had nothing to do with it, but if you listen to the convention, he wrote it. And they not only did he write it, he's going to implement it, and they're Nazis.
Of
that's
course.
Pretty much what we heard all week long. But they're trying to tie Trump to this Project 2025. It's an initiative from the Heritage Foundation. That's where this comes from.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a lie that just won't die. Such a connection has been fact checked plenty of times before, including CNN. This fact checker from CNN was forced to weigh in again on Wednesday after the Representative Lisa Blunt Rochester, who's running to represent Delaware in the U.S. Senate, falsely claimed Donald Trump wrote the book on Project 2025. It's like Joe Biden brought it up, Obama brought it up, Harris brought it up. It's as if it were true.
I know the problem with that Project 2025 is, which I only heard about a month ago. And so I go and look it up, and I see it's absolutely valid, and a lot of time and money and expertise went into it because the production value of it is very high. However, they've made no attempt to summarize what it is. I would have to read 900 freaking pages of this thing and try to decipher what it is. I'm waiting for James Lindsay to do that for us. And what they should do is say very clearly, look, this is a summary of what this part is. This is a summary of what this part is, and this is a summary of what this part is, because ultimately this is what we stand for. Because nobody's going to read those 900 pages. It allows the Democrats to make all of these assumptions and feed you all. Okay, look, so I don't know what it is, but they're telling me what it is. I guess that's what it is. So it's another big failure.
That's what's happening, right?
It's another big failure on the part of the Republicans of not knowing how to deliver a message. It's unbelievable. I cannot stand the Republican Party. I really can't. Now, I'll bet you Project 2025, a lot of it I would love. I bet you there's a lot of it I'd hate too.
I've read some of the bullet points on it, and there's a lot of stuff I agree with on there, but there are some things that are just the way out, and not a lot, but the Heritage Foundation is a great place. But I mean, they're a think tank. They're not the cabinet of Trump or anything like that. So them just coming out and just saying this is what it is absolutely crazy. The deception is something. I mean, these people were basically saying all week long, the rich people are trying to get you. It's unfair. These rich people, beware of rich people, people that are too greedy, that just want all of this stuff.
Says the liberal
these people
elite
that are saying this are all living in a mansion, and they got 10 other mansions. They flew in on their private jet. They've got security with guns all around them.
Somebody made a point that Michelle Obama herself in her speech said that same crap, and they're worth $200 million and have 3 different estates.
There's a meme here that says there's nothing funnier than a woman with 3 mega mansions, private jets, helicopters, and yachts giving you a lecture on income inequality.
Yes, there you go. And how we're asking for too much. She said something to that effect.
Yeah, she did. And that was kind of the theme was we don't trust people that want too much. And it's like the lectures, the condescension.
People are falling for it.
But it was
Van Jones was crying.
Hard.
He was
I don't understand
moved.
that. Well, because that's his spirituality. I understand that.
There you go.
God,
it's his church.
Spoke, and yeah, I mean, I go to church and I cry. It's the same thing. That's his God. It's kind of interesting how this is all coming together and it looks like they're going to cheat to get in, and they probably got the voter machines all locked up. we need help on this, but we are quickly coming to the end of our time here, Barry.
Okay, I'll tell you what, Merle, you go ahead and get going. I'm going to finish up with some stuff I got from Dave Smith. He outlined about how we got Obama and then how that led to us getting Trump, and why we are in the predicament that we are has a lot to do with the Uni-party. And it's
it is a Uni-party. Don't let anybody.
Okay. With that, why don't you go ahead and get to your meeting? Yeah, it'll be better next time, I'm sure.
All right. Take care.
All right, buddy. Have a good day. Have a good weekend.
Bye.
All right, everybody. Like I said, I wanted to, I got to give this to Dave Smith. I'm sorry. His podcast is called Part of the Problem. He's really come into prominence in the last couple of years. He goes on Rogan, he goes on Tucker Carlson, and lots of different panels because he's asked his opinion, because he's a very astute political historian. His trade is actually a comedian, but he's a very clear political historian, and he debates anybody and everybody all the time. Basically, usually, I think he always wins. And I very much align with his beliefs that are libertarian. I won't identify with one institution because then they'll change their stance right underneath of me. I just like that they stand mostly for anti-war and liberty, getting small government. So I like that. But Dave was talking about, like yesterday, I think it was yesterday's podcast, about how we got Obama, and coming off of the Twin Towers, 2002, coming off of that, George W. Bush looked like an absolute hero. Anybody in that situation would have been. We go off to war to Iraq under false pretenses, as I recall, is because Netanyahu saw that opportunity to tell us that they had weapons of mass destruction because he wants us to attack Iraq. And so that starts a whole bunch of stuff. But let me get right to my notes. He says, Smith says, of the Uni-party, two different wings of the same birds, Democrats and Republicans. On issues that really matter, they're in complete agreement. And then they fight like hell for about 5 or 6 issues that just don't matter too much. Both are for increasing the military budget. In spite of the rhetoric, they ultimately all will cave to the military industrial complex. It's not like one of them is for sound money and the other one is for a central bank fiat currency. Central bank fiat currency. No, they are not. At the end of the day, they will also cave to the Fed. And so we're on the funny money system instead of Austrian economics, and therefore we can print up money and create uncontrollable debt. Both parties do it, even though they always accuse the other party of doing it, and we're supposed to stay divided and point fingers while both parties do it. They're both for increases in government spending. They're both for big corporate bailouts and corporate welfare. And we all know that. And when it comes to corporate bailouts, you can't get any bigger than Obama's bailout of the banks after that whole abomination. All the issues that are destroying this country, they're all together on. So we have $35 trillion in debt, and both parties are responsible for that. So Barack Obama essentially was elected because he was great at giving speeches. And he was the most opposite thing from George W. Bush that Americans could find after we had enough of George W. Bush. He seemed more intelligent than Bush and was elected to end the Bush wars and closing Guantanamo Bay. He then got elected, and he continued or accelerated all of the worst of Bush's policies and kept the war going in Iraq, surged in war in Afghanistan, started the war in Libya, started the war in Syria, and started the war in Yemen, none of which we really talk about. Then he bailed out the big banks, as we mentioned a minute ago, and he just failed on absolutely everything. So in his second term, because he failed on everything, they just pivoted to wokeism and identity politics. Hence where we are today. Obama brought in identity politics. And they went from being anti-war, pro-civil liberties to just calling everybody racist or transphobe. And so we got the worst of the Bush-Cheney policies while we're being told we're racist. And the people who lost everything in the 2008 recession got nothing in return except a lecture for it. So that is basically how we ended up with Trump. Why do you think the entire Rust Belt wanted Donald Trump after this atrocity? Going Bush didn't work, going anti-Bush didn't work, and this is ultimately what laid the groundwork for Trump to be our president and where we are in this mess right now. So I'm going to wind up with that. I did have one thing I like to end on a light note. So how about we take a look at this? And these are some dolphins that were filmed off the coast of San Diego. Dolphins are known to be playful, and they are playing. And this is a really super clip.
The photographer aboard a recent gala watching
CBS
tour when this pod of bottlenose dolphins caught her eye, as well as everyone else is on board.
Awesome video.
See them jumping like 20 feet in the air, and everybody on the boat just started pointing, and I'm like, what is everybody looking at?
It's a beautiful
Almost feels
sight.
like they were doing like Olympic style jumps. Like they were just all trying to be like Simone Biles and just touch the sky and come down. It was awesome.
I know most of you are listening, so I wanted to describe
Instagram
it.
page in just 1 week. This
Have
one
a
has
great
already
weekend.
generated
Love you
over
guys.
7 million views.